I'm Abrielle Millett for BYU-Idaho Radio, and today I'm here with Gaylynn Bean, and she's here to talk about the Women in Business and Leadership Forum that will be happening, and it's run by the Rexburg Chamber of Commerce. And you're going to be speaking on the synergy surge of productivity. Can you tell us a little more about yourself before we go into this forum that you'll be speaking on?
Yes, I have been a resident of Rexburg. We moved here in 1998, so we're going on, I believe this is our 28th year here in Rexburg. I had the opportunity when we first moved here to teach piano lessons for 20 years. I worked in the schools as a volunteer. I worked within the community as a volunteer for many, many years. And then in 2006, I became an adjunct professor for BYU-Idaho, and I started teaching communication classes. And then if you fast forward a couple of decades and all of my children are raised and grown and flown, then a year ago I was hired as a 2-year full-time visiting faculty at BYU-Idaho in the communication department. I've had the opportunity through the years to teach classes such as public speaking and communication essentials, interpersonal communication. I'm currently teaching a class called Group Dynamics, and I've also taught a course called Conflict Negotiation and Resolution. And so through the study of these communication classes, I've learned a lot of important principles that can be applied not only in businesses, but in families, and how communication can facilitate positive productivity and change. And synergy, if we define what synergy is when the components that come together, they create a better product than if they were just individually considered. So the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That's the definition of synergy.
It sounds like you've been here for a long time and you've had incredible experiences and taught quite a few classes. I'm studying communication, so obviously I've enjoyed a lot of the communication classes that they have here. In regards to this Women in Business and Leadership, can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what that offers in the community?
Yes. The Rexburg Chamber of Commerce, I've been associated with them for a couple of years directly, and our current president is Diane Bruce, and she has created this monthly forum where women in the community of Rexburg who are associated or as business owners or business workers or just women in business have been personally invited to attend a monthly forum where we gather and we have presentations about a variety of topics. And so women in the community that are associated with businesses are giving presentations to other women in business to facilitate positive change and to just offer support in our endeavors to be successful.
This particular forum is held at the Headwaters Construction. Is it typically held in different places?
Every single month it rotates. And so I've attended in a myriad of places. Key Bank, I've attended last month actually was held at Evans Hairstyle College. And so they rotate the business that hosts the event every single month. And I'm excited to be able to present at Headwaters Corporation.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about this topic that you'll be addressing and kind of why it's important to you?
Yes. I currently teach a class called Group Dynamics. And one of the principles that we explore in that class is how can we establish effective collaboration and effective teams and have positive group dynamics. One of the research pieces that I have explored through the years in teaching and sharing with students is a project that Google actually participated in 2012. Google instituted a research project known as Project Aristotle. And what they did is they studied hundreds of teams and they analyzed what are the characteristics and qualities of the very most productive teams. And they had a hypothesis when they went into this research that they thought if they had the most highly qualified individuals and the most talented individuals working together on a team, that would create the most productive results. And to their surprise, that was not the characteristics that created the most productivity. And so when they called it Project Aristotle, because Aristotle is given credit for saying the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's what synergy is. So Aristotle is credited with saying that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And that's how it was given its name. What Google found in their research study, that it wasn't putting all of the most talented people on a team that created the best productivity. They come up with 5 characteristics of the most highly productive teams. And so I'm hoping to share those 5 characteristics with the women in business in our presentation on July the 7th. The first of those would be psychological safety. The second would be that those teams have consistent structure and clarity. The third is team members on highly productive teams are dependable. Team members on highly productive teams understand their impact of what their project is doing. And the fifth principle would be they understand the meaning of the why they are doing the work that they're doing. So if you consider productivity in teams, you really have to have a solid understanding of what each of these 5 principles are so that you can say, oh, how can I establish and create that in my business? Psychological safety is a term that's actually being well used in businesses, in education, even in psychology today. And what that entails is that people feel safe and confident to be able to share their ideas. They feel safe to admit that they made a mistake. They can ask questions and they can offer new creative ideas without being shut down. And somebody says, well, what about if we do it this way? And they're shut down. They will stop offering new and creative ideas because they don't feel safe. So creating an atmosphere of psychological safety fosters vulnerability in that you can share and think and try and create, and it's okay, and we're all in this together. And I think that's a huge element of successful and productive teams, because if you can work together and know that it's okay to make a mistake and we're going to find a new solution that's even better, but understanding that this way didn't work is going to help us be more efficient if we do it this other way. I also feel really strongly about the element of dependability. So one researcher suggested that members reliably complete quality work on time if they are seen and valued as dependable workers. So they have the feeling of being dependable, but they are also esteemed as being dependable. And I think that creates a high standard for productivity.
How can a business foster that if they don't, I guess, traditionally are open to everyone's and anyone's ideas in their company?
If I were the CEO of a company and I needed to create a new product, I could foster psychological safety by bringing members of teams in and saying, I would like everybody to come up with 3 potential products that would solve this need that we have in our company. And then I would let everybody get a sticky note, and I would put every single sticky note up on a whiteboard so everybody could see every idea. And when you're seeking for psychological safety, there's no judgments during brainstorming. So brainstorming is also a way to handle conflict resolution. You brainstorm ideas to try to find solutions, and the rule of brainstorming is nobody's ideas are wrong or bad. So when you have them all listed up and they're visible in a company, then you can start to say, okay, help me understand why you think this would be the best solution. And then you could ask another person, why did you choose this? And through curious questions instead of evaluations of, I don't think that's a very good idea. There's no way that's going to work. You would say, why do you think that that would produce what we need it to? And how can our company come up with that product? So I think psychological safety is really fostered through curiosity and descriptions rather than evaluations. And dependability, I think, is fostered most efficiently by how the team leaders and project leads exemplify the behaviors that they want their employees to exhibit. So if I have a standard in my company that I want people to start work at 8 o'clock, then as a project manager or a CEO, I don't get to come to work whenever I want. I need to be at work and ready to go at 8 o'clock. I'm going to model. I don't have a training for my employees so they can learn how to be more productive. I am engaged with my team. They can depend on me if they come to me with questions or concerns. They can depend that if I don't know the answer, I'm going to do whatever I need to research and find out that information. I think an element of dependability that comes in productivity is that those that have power and resources can enable those who need power and resources to have what they need to be able to be most productive and efficient.
I love all these principles you've shared so far. And these all came from the idea of Aristotle.
Project Aristotle. Through Google Teams research in 2012.
What is something that you hope the people that come take away from this forum?
I hope that they can have an understanding of those 5 important principles. So I want to share with them some examples of psychological safety. I want to share with them about the importance of dependability. And then I would also like them to be able to understand, what is structure and clarity? Because that's the 3rd Google principle. And structure and clarity is something that some people say, oh yeah, that's just an innate part of business. But sometimes it's not really clear. For example, structure and clarity would be, I need this project to be due by this day at this time. Here are the resources that you can use, and here's the process that I need you to follow. So I'm providing a framework of how the job needs to be done, and I'm trying to be very clear and transparent in my instructions. And sometimes as project managers or even CEOs or even teammates, we assume people just will know how to figure stuff out. But sometimes they need a clear structure, and they absolutely need clarity of when and how to be able to accomplish, because that provides synergy for productivity.
When it comes to structure and clarity, what is, I guess, the balance between helping people understand the process and giving them baby steps? Because I know sometimes people will not want to because they're afraid of overly giving them too much of a guide.
Right. And nobody wants to be micromanaged. And so I think what structure and clarity allows is that you say, here is the framework. Here's some specifics of what needs to happen. And then you allow your team, because you have this confidence that you can depend on them, you allow your team to be creative and work and create.
And what are the final two?
The final 2, they're very closely related. The 4th is finding meaning in why are we doing this? Why do we have to spend time on our job doing this particular thing? So meaning is identifying also what the work means to individuals on the team. you're important, Ariel, because you're doing this podcast for BYU-Idaho Radio. You have an important role. And when I'm working on a project, if I know my specific role, it adds to the meaning of what I'm doing. And then the final one is impact. And that's having your team see all of this effort matters because this is going to be the result that happens for our company. It's that seeing that your work contributes to the organization's goals and you matter. So meaning and impact are pretty closely tied. So impact is important to help customers and the clients, and you can say, we're doing this because it has a benefit for this reason. It's going to help our customers be able to, and I think understanding meaning and impact are very important elements for synergy surges of productivity.
Yeah, I can tell there's many principles to be learned, and these can be applied to working in a team, in business, and also in a leadership position to guide your team to know kind of what things you can do to make it, like you said, to develop or create synergy. Let's, I guess, really quickly say that this is, again, July 7th at the Headwaters Construction, and that is located, I have it written down, 900 Jetstream Drive in Rexburg.
And it's at 7:00 p.m. that evening. And it's a really fun event. When you come, you get a raffle ticket, and they always do a raffle prize. They highlight other businesses, one or two other businesses that get to raffle something to promote their businesses. And then we have a teaching, learning experience together, and then we get to become familiar with Headwaters. I've personally never been there, so I'm excited to be able to go and be introduced to what their business culture looks and feels like. And the fact that they're willing to host is just fantastic.
This forum is primarily for women in business, or who can attend?
The Rexburg Chamber of Commerce sends out a digital newsletter every month, and there's a link included that if you would like to attend. So you could go to rexburgchamber.com and you could look up their newsletters, and they would have a link that you can register to attend that event. They usually invite us to click on a link and RSVP, so they have a head count. And then if you RSVP ahead of time, you get an extra raffle ticket. It's a delightful gathering of women who have drive and purpose, and they're striving to become productive and effective members of our community. And a shout out to the Rexburg Chamber of Commerce for facilitating these women in business meetings. I was invited to speak for this Women and Business Forum by Christina Hansen, who was a former student of mine in a group dynamics class. So that was a very sweet invitation from a fellow student and now fellow colleague in Women in Business.
That's awesome. I'm Abrielle Millett for BYU-Idaho Radio. I'm here with Gaylynn Bean, who is going to be speaking at Women in Business Forum, which is held by the Rexburg Chamber of Commerce. And she'll be speaking on synergy surge of productivity. Thank you so much, Sister Bean, for being here with me and to speak more on these principles. I think this is a super exciting forum for people to learn more about business.
And I love that these principles not only apply to businesses, but the Google Team principles of effective teams are paramount in families. So when we consider the importance of psychological safety and dependability, structure and clarity, meaning and impact, it absolutely applies to effective families. And I love that BYU-Idaho fosters that feeling in our university community.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for meeting with me today.